What's up, everybody? This is Michael once again. The graveyard shift in the wee hours of the night with your daily trivia question. It's thankfully Thursday. Not quite Friday, but I'm thankful nonetheless, for sure. So we just keep on moving until we get to the end of the week and an awesome weekend coming up. So, all right, so let's jump right into it. The answer to the previous trivia question was the game show, the quiz show called 21. I don't know if you've ever heard this story or not, but this is really interesting to research. Now, 21 was an American game show that aired on TV in the 1950s, the late 50s, from 1956 to 1958, where two contestants competed against each other in separate isolation booths. They were kind of locked away of sorts, right? They answered general knowledge questions to earn 21 points, hence the name, right? So the show abruptly came to an end and became synonymous with scandal when it was found to be rigged completely and completely choreographed. In fact, really, there were so many different little secrets to the whole thing that were eventually unveiled. It was later determined that producers secretly gave assistance to certain contestants in order to prearrange the show's outcomes. And this turned into a very big deal in the late 1950s. 21 was part of the larger 1950s quiz show scandals, as they became known, where multiple shows actually became known for being rigged in this manner. But 21 was one of the first, and it certainly got the lion's share of publicity for it. Okay, this was a big deal in the 1950s when television programming was coming into existence, right? People were becoming glued to the TV, right? Sponsors were getting involved with primetime hours and shows and so forth. There were various motives that set this whole thing up. Because this was kind of a new territory, there were a lack of regulations. People wanted to improve ratings, and just plain old greed played a part in it, as well, as it always does with everything. 21 started out without any manipulation at all, and the broadcast was considered, from the beginning, really the couple of initial programs, a dismal failure, quite frankly. Geritol, who was a huge sponsor when TV first came into being back in the late 50s, was in fact sponsoring 21, and they were furious. They were very upset with the initial poor viewing records. And quite frankly, since they were paying the bill, they wanted improvements, right? So producers got to work on doing just that. And what they came up with was flat out just scandal, right? Contestants on 21 became actors that were willing partners in the deception. They were given instructions on how to dress, what to say, which questions to answer, which questions to miss. In fact, they had it even down to their mannerisms that they were supposed to display and employ, and at what times during the show. You know, when somebody would read a question, they would turn the air conditioning off in the booths, right, to make them sweat. And they were even the sweating of the brow, or the straightening of the tie, the loosening of the tie, or the tight shirt was choreographed. All of it was rigged, right? It became kind of a joke, actually. So enter in Charles Van Duren, who was mentioned in the trivia question. And I bring him up because he was a mainstay character, specifically during this whole occurrence. He played this part to a T. He was tall. He was kind of a dominating figure. He had a great TV face. He played the choreographed part. Played the part very well. Right? He checked off all of these boxes perfectly in this whole deception. And he, believe it or not, make no mistake about it, he was a part of it. He was quite the ideal contestant to come along and play this role. Van Duren would square off against another contestant named Herbert Stemple. Two of these main characters in this scandal, right? Specifically in 4 rigged games where the two went back and forth, where audience interest really peaked at this time, and Van Duren would eventually go on to prevail and sustain in a very long run as the defending champion of sorts. Now, back in 1958, right, you can equate this to like a long run, for instance, on Jeopardy, which we see often. Same kind of thing. He won over $1 million in today's money. Okay, so it was a big deal. People were really watching now. He was successful. He was winning lots of money. Stemple, however, the contestant that Van Duren beat, would eventually become disgruntled for being knocked off the top bracket and he was knocked off in that manner on purpose. And he was ordered to lose as part of the whole script. Right? At first he went along with it, but then he became disgruntled that this other guy was making so much money. Anyways, long story short, he would spill the beans on the entire show and its setup. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and Congress, as you can imagine, would get involved in this whole thing. This was serious business, right? Because it was on TV, it fell under FCC, and then Senate investigations follows. Prosecutors, grand juries, everything came with this. Right? Congress would go on to amend the Communications Act to prohibit the fixing of televised contests of intellectual knowledge or skill, and they could declare illegal any contest or game with intent to deceive the audience. So now there's federal regulations to game shows, folks, because of this whole thing. And these are still on the books today. Game shows and quiz shows that you see on TV are very heavily regulated with sponsors, with FCC rules, federal laws regulating all of this. A couple of cool geek factoids, folks. As I mentioned, 21 Game Show was part of a larger 1950s quiz show scandals, and these included the following: Dodo, which I've never heard of. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. If I am, please forgive me. The $64,000 challenge, which I have heard of, and of course 21, which is the focus of this trivia question. The $64,000 question in Tic-Tac-Dough. For the Love of Money was also another one. These were all in the mid to late 50s. Shows that came and went, got caught up in this scandal of choreographing and rigged games for sure. This was common back then. 21, like I said, gets the lion's share, though, of changing the rules and really getting caught. The 21 scandal nearly caused the demise of the entire TV game show industry at the time in the wake of United States Senate investigations. Once Senate committees start investigating, folks, they overturn one thing and they never stop. There's a 1994 Robert Redford movie called Quiz Show that you might have heard of that dramatizes the 21 quiz show scandal of the 1950s. Grab it if you can. Add it to your catalog. Something to watch this weekend, maybe, for sure. And that brings us to today's trivia question for a thankful Thursday. Trying to wrap this week off. Let's get through Thursday first. For November 3rd, brand new, here we go, on this day in 1969. In an effort to garner support for his party and offer a rebuttal against the so-called counterculture and large demonstrations against the Vietnam War, President Nixon refers to the apparent overshadowed group of Middle Americans as this. Only like Richard Nixon could. Good luck, folks. Thanks for all you do. It's always appreciated. Peace out.